Alright, this is K-Rock, the Truth Bomb, with a video about a couple questions to ask if the guy you're following is loyal opposition. Now this is advanced truth. Look at this like a graduate level to truth. So I'm assuming some things that you already know. The country was formed as a republic. You know that the bankers are in charge. Just some of those general start points. Both parties are corrupt. It's all an illusion. So anyway, that's the start point. So let's get into this. The litmus test. Okay. Number one, USS Liberty and 9/11 truth, specifically how Israel and the Mossad and CIA, that cabal, was behind all of it. Two, who controls Hollywood? And that really gets to the same thing, is the Federal Reserve is a Zionist, fascist banking cabal, and since they have monopoly control over the money, they control really everything. So that includes Hollywood, but you can dig into that and you'll find all kinds of evidence as to what I'm speaking of. All right, there is a Star of David on the back of a buck. It's a fact. There's no getting around it. It's been there since 1934, once the Zionist Federal Reserve bankrupted the United States. That is the creditor. The creditor in a bankruptcy makes all the big decisions. All right. When they speak about the different movements, Occupy Wall Street, the Tea Party, and the Fed events, basically all of those events at the top, at the leadership, are all loyal opposition. But the people in the streets are honest people. I encourage you to go to all of those events and interact with people, and you'll find that all of them are willing to speak to you. It's actually, I organize Tea Party events and at the Fed events, and I've gone to 4 Occupy events, and they have open mics at all the Occupy events that I've gone to, and we've gone to the Federal Reserve at the Occupy movements. Spoke to thousands of people, and they're willing and interested. We're all searching for the truth, and we've been lied to for thousands, probably thousands, but at least 200 years we've been lied to. So people are willing and anxious for the truth. Do they, so to that point, do they divide and conquer, or they try to keep you so that you're not interacting? And that's the real goal of the New World Order, is to keep us weak and divided. But we need to go and interact directly with people and unite, find things that we can find commonality with, and ultimately we need to change our monetary system. That's the underlying cause of everything. Do they give you the false solution of the Rothschilds gold and silver system? That's the false solution. The real solution is debt-free sovereign money. It's the Bill Still. The correct solution for monetary reform is the Bill Still solution, but that relies upon a vote, and it's the difference between, basically, if all of our money was created as our coins are, we would have no national debt. That's the correct solution. Does your truth teller talk about the dual U.S.-Israeli citizens, which are all over our government in both parties? Michael Chertoff was in the Republican Party's last one, and Rahm Emanuel in Obama's. So this is something that's prevalent in both. There's dozens of them. That's unique to Israeli citizens. There's no other nationality that has that same arrangement. 1933 bankruptcy truth. The U.S. was bankrupt in 33. And in the bankruptcy, the creditor makes all the decisions. That means the Fed is the real government. Number 8, does your truth teller talk about how the Zionist central bankers financed Hitler before and during World War II? This is the reason why the bankers were able to keep, the Swiss bankers were able to keep Switzerland neutral. I'm sure Poland would have liked to have been neutral, or Belgium or France, but you're not allowed to. The bankers are allowed to be neutral. That's how that works. By the way, the bankers in Switzerland have some of the most open gun laws in the world. They actually have automatic weapons. Did they talk about your truth? Does your truth teller talk about the U.S. corporation that was established in 1871? It's the effective difference between the republic and the democracy. So this corporate war democracy was established in 1871, essentially during Reconstruction. All right. And that really gets, that's it. The U.S. has been bankrupt for a long time, and it still remains a crown corporation, meaning the U.S. is a crown colony to foreign banking interests. So the cabal is somewhere centered between, the Vatican and the Rothschilds. We can debate as to who's at the top of that, but ultimately, the thing that I see is there's some things that you're allowed to talk about and some that you're not. So you're allowed to talk about the Vatican pedophiles or how the Vatican financed and they had relationships with the Nazis. But the thing you never see in the media, the dominant media, is how Zionist Jewish bankers were financing Hitler, and they cooperated with the Nazis through the transfer agreement to send Jews, beautiful Jews who were willing to go to Israel or Palestine at the time. If they're willing to go, no problem. Hitler killed the Jews that stayed, because that's what he's paid to do. He is paid to create this chaos and kill the beautiful Jews who didn't want to leave the culture and the comforts of Europe for the dust of Palestine. The ones that would leave through the transfer agreement, there was a coin, there was cooperation there. I'll include the image, and that's it. And here's another good one. It's basically the UN. The UN was formed by Zionist central bankers. Their initial attempt was the League of Nations right after World War I. Woodrow Wilson was the proponent of that. They couldn't get it done. Obviously, Wilson was controlled by the bankers. He signed the Federal Reserve Act. Then, under Truman and FDR, FDR rounded up the gold and turned it into the Federal Reserve private bank cartel, so he's obviously controlled by the bankers. Then Truman formed the UN, and that was put on Rothschilds' property, or the Rockefellers' property in New York, and their initiative is to round up guns so that the bankers have monopoly control over all arms, that there's no private arms. Now, the thing that's compelling there is that the UN controls as much of the U.S. military, and we go around collecting, rounding up guns on behalf of the UN's initiative to make sure that nobody has guns other than the bankers. So eventually that will come to the U.S. And after the U.S. loses its rights to private gun ownership, the only countries that'll have it still will be Israel and Switzerland. So you have the two, the Zionists in Israel and the Zionists in Switzerland, which remained neutral during World War II. Swiss bankers, they have a different set of rules for themselves than everyone else. So that's it. And the idea of the U.S. fighting on behalf of Israel, I'm actually going to include like a little image of a sword, a Marine sword, where there's a Star of David right on it, which right at the hilt of a sword, historically, that mark that's on the sword indicates who that warrior fights on behalf of. So right at that space, at the base of the blade, and right at the hilt of the sword, that spot is reserved for symbolism as to who the warrior fights for. And on the Marine sword, there's a Star of David. I think it should tell you everything you need to know. It's the ugly truth, and I hope these questions will act as a great litmus test to make sure that you're not following the wrong guy. So sometimes they'll be doing it as loyal opposition, and sometimes they'll be doing it because they're just brainwashed on the issue. And that, the primary space you're going to find that occur is on the gold and silver monetary reform, because it seems it's a tricky issue. But ultimately, because the U.S. does not have gold and silver, it's going to have to borrow it. And who has the gold and silver? The New World Order does. So we'll borrow it from them, or we will have to mine it. Well, all of the public and private lands in the U.S. are owned by the Crown or the Vatican cabal. So we would be mining it from their land, so obviously they control it. The only way we will control it is if we issue it ourselves at the federal level, but that's going to rely upon a vote from the corrupt, so that's not going to happen. So the correct solution is, without a vote, starting local currencies. All right, K-Rock the Truth Bomb. I hope I am bringing you some information that you haven't found anywhere else, and to victory, to our unification against the real enemies of truth and justice and peace. Let's unify and take them down.